Welcome to Daily Truths with Dave Ahlman.
Good morning, everybody. Jesus did not ever mince words. He always spoke directly to the issues at hand. He didn't sugarcoat things. He just said, this is what's going on, and this is what you need to do. Now, remember when the Sermon on the Mount, and Jesus is talking to a handful of his followers and a few others, probably about 40 or 50 people that were there. And so he says these words in Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 to 30. And we talked about verses 27 and 28 yesterday, but I think it's helpful for us to look at the whole context. So we'll be reading verses 27 to 30 today. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you, everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. For it is better than you lose one of your members than that your whole body be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. For it is better that you lose one of your members than that your whole body go into hell. Whew. Wow. What's Jesus getting at here? Obviously, he's speaking in hyperbole and exaggeration. Obviously, he's not saying, cut out your eye if your eye causes you to sin, or cut off your hand if your hand causes you to sin. But he's using that as an overstatement of what to do if a person struggles with sexual sins. And it sounds like he's talking to our day and age, because everybody that I know at one time or another, or maybe even now, struggles with sexual sins. So what's Jesus saying? He's saying, guard your eyes. Guard your hands. Make sure that your eyes don't look at things you shouldn't look at. Make sure your hands don't drive you to places you shouldn't go to. That's basically what he's saying. And the helps that we have today are so incredibly helpful, like Covenant Eyes. Covenant Eyes is an organization that puts a kind of a monitor on your computer that goes to people that you're accountable to so that they can see what your internet searches are. That keeps you honest with what you're looking at. I think it's wonderful. We have that on our computers, and I love having that because then I'm accountable to my wife. Covenant Eyes, having an accountability partner, someone who asks you difficult questions. How are you doing? By the way, this isn't an issue just for men. I read recently that about 30% of women, of all the people who look at pornography, 30% of them are women. Holy cow, who would have thought that? So this is a predominant problem with both men and women. So what is Jesus saying? He's saying, guard your eyes. I think of that song that came out many years ago. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. For the Father up above is looking down in love. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see, right? It's really good. And our eyes will take us to places we shouldn't be looking at, or our hands will drive us to places we shouldn't go. And so what Jesus is saying is, be careful. Make sure that you guard your eyes, that you guard your hands so that they don't cause you to sin. Now, sometimes, the story of the adulterous woman for an example, in John chapter 8, sometimes people fall. Sometimes we mess up. Sometimes we look at things we shouldn't look at. And we are guilty as charged. I think of the adulterous woman. She was caught in an adulterous act. And the Pharisees and religious leaders must have not had anything else to do because they caught her in that act. And they brought her to Jesus, remember? And they said, as they presented her and almost threw her on the ground, look at what she did. She's horrible. She should be stoned. And you know what Jesus said? He's writing in the sand. And I often, as I hear that story, I wonder what he was writing in the sand. Was it forgiven or no condemnation? Anyway, after writing in the sand, he got up on his feet. He looked at all of them in the eye, and he said, whoever of you is without sin, you be the first to throw a stone at her. And one by one, when they heard those words, they dropped their stones, starting with the older one down to the youngest ones. They dropped their stones and walked away because they knew that Jesus was right in saying, hey, you guys sin too. We all do. So here's the thing. Here's the bottom line. Oh, by the way, what did Jesus say in that story? He looked at that woman and he said, where are your accusers? And she looked around and they were all gone. And he said, neither do I accuse you or condemn you. Go and leave your life of sin. So it was the grace that moved and motivated her to live a different life. Here's the thing. If you struggle with this, and I know that many of the people that I'm talking to do struggle with it, this is what you do. You take it to the Lord. You confess it before God. You know that Jesus Christ died for all our sins, and you are absolved by God through faith in what Christ has done. And God looks upon you with love and grace and mercy and peace. Just as Jesus looked upon that adulterous woman and conveyed grace and peace, so God the Father does the same thing based on what Jesus has done for us at the cross. He looks at us, he conveys his forgiveness and love to us, and he says what Jesus said to that adulterous woman. Now that I have forgiven you, now that there's no condemnation, go and leave your life of sin. It's the grace of God that moves, impels, and motivates us to live a godly life. So my friend, if you struggle with this, and maybe indeed you do, these words are tough from Jesus, right? He pulls no punches. He doesn't mince any words. These are tough words. But if you struggle with this, know that you have forgiveness in Christ, and that forgiveness in Christ can move you and motivate you to live a godly life before the Lord, a pure life before the Lord. So that is today's daily truth. Have a great day in Jesus Christ.
Thank you for tuning in to Daily Truths with Dave Ahlman. If this ministry is blessing you, please consider supporting us by sharing this channel with a friend. You can also like, comment, subscribe, or leave a review. This helps us tremendously. Come back tomorrow for your next Daily Truth.